Naruto exclusive videos lemon come out on my boosty. You can watch and subscribe. Link in the description, like the video and write a comment, enjoy watching. Description: he is considered the most dangerous creature alive today. The devil incarnate, an immortal monster with no past or future. Who could have imagined that even such a terrible creature could have feelings? Preface: S-108 Be careful. He is very dangerous. Dr. Yakushi Kabuto jerked open the door leading to the warden's room. The gray walls made Professor Uzumaki Naruto just sighed tiredly. He was sure that after the plant girl from Lab 17, nothing could surprise him. Through the thick glass, a wide, massive iron door was visible, behind which object number 108 should be located. It says here that this is the most well-guarded cell on the territory of the first laboratory? The professor ran his palm over the document. How many years has he been kept locked up? 27 years. As soon as they found him. Since that day, they have tried to destroy S-108 times, hence the number. The doctor pushed the weighty door, and it creaked shut with several locks. We are safe here. Do not make any sudden movements. He was assigned S rank? What did he deserve? None of the previous guards were able to reveal all of S-108's abilities. Let's hope that you will succeed, Professor. The man pressed the blue button on the control panel. Naruto turned his gaze to the impressive door, which began to rise upward with a characteristic mechanical sound. The first thing to appear were thin, pale legs, shackled in metal blocks. How long can S-108 live without food? He doesn't eat. It has been experimentally proven that S-108 does not need food. How does it not need? He is a human, right? You see, Professor, he looks like a human. The door rose higher. Naruto could see the main holding mechanism and his slowly rising chest. How does S-108 react to contact with people? Kabuto sighed. Kills everyone. He kills all living creatures in his reach. Even insects. Have you tried talking to him? Yakushi's face grinned. I've heard of your methods, Professor Uzumaki. I'm afraid that talking won't help in this case. S-108 only says 2 words. Enough and light. HM? Is he afraid of light? Orochimaru-sama will explain better. What methods did he use to achieve such results? Naruto did not wait for an answer and turned towards the camera. The subject's head was secured, and its neck was shackled with a wide metal hoop. At first glance, the body looked fragile and graceful, even feminine. But it was definitely a man. Sexual characteristics were also present. Very long black hair fell down over the pads and other restraining mechanisms. Feeling the gaze on itself, the subject slowly opened its eyes. The men shuddered almost simultaneously, and Professor Uzumaki caught his breath. The irises of S-108's eyes were absolutely black. They literally absorbed light. For a moment, Naruto was seized by panicky animal fear. It looks like a person, but the eyes, yes. Orochimaru-sama assumed that S-108 sees better than any other living creature on our planet. But proving this is quite difficult. And how does it kill? Naruto asked in a hoarse voice. You can watch the video footage a little later. The shocked professor was silent for a minute, wondering if he should take on such a difficult job. And he's handsome, right? Devilishly. Like most predators. 3 interns died trying to get into the connection chamber, and get to know S-108 better. Connection? Yes, that's the chamber in front of you. It's filled with gas that blocks the subject's abilities. But even despite the block, it still manages to reach the people who get there. The fair-haired professor fell silent, peering into S-108's completely emotionless face. Thin lips parted slightly, and an ominous whisper penetrated the speakers. Enough. Uzumaki shrugged and pressed the red button. The massive door slammed down. There's also a gas block inside this door. The mechanism works on hydraulics, so that if something happens, it will isolate the object in a few seconds. Oh. Professor, have I probably tired you out already? You have been on the road, right? Nothing. The man took a couple of deep breaths, trying to calm down. Yes, S-108 shocks many, Dr. Yakushi smiled. Are you sure you want to start research? It is very dangerous. Of course I do, Naruto shouted, having pulled himself together. Arrange a meeting with Professor Orochimaru for me. Good. Kabuto pressed a button and the door behind the researchers swung open. Tell me, where did you get these scars? Uzumaki grinned, touching his cheek with a habitual movement. 3 years ago, Object A-53. He attacked me because of a smile. Your methods are very strange. But they say they are effective. Are you really going to communicate with S-108? Naturally. I think every subject has thoughts about us. This one has only one to kill. I would like to understand why it kills everything that moves. The researchers left the room and turned down the corridor towards the central laboratory. I hope you can do something. Just be careful. Bowing, Dr. Yakushi opened the door to the overseer's personal office. In response to the warning, the youngest Professor Overseer Uzumaki Naruto just smiled brightly. Chapter 1 Light. Turning the page of the report, Naruto looked into the eyes of the black-haired man sitting opposite him. So, you tested the laser on S-108? Yeah, Orochimaru answered carelessly. Do you realize that he hates you? You burned his eyes. Professor Uzumaki, that was necessary. But he gave us the light, and we made sure that he knows some other words besides. Stop. Are you completely nuts? You can't test weapons on objects. These creatures have the power to destroy us. If someone like S-108 breaks free, it's too late to talk about mercy, Uzumaki-san. Orochimaru raised his voice. They tried to destroy him 108 times. One more attempt won't make a difference. Naruto's eyes flashed, but he remained silent. Arguing with one of the leading researchers on the first day was stupid. What else can you tell me? S-108 is a very unusual creature. In addition to being immortal and ruthless, he is also cunning. Most likely, the form we see was created by him himself. It is just a physical shell. But the most interesting thing is that this shell completely copies the properties of the human body. If you wound him, blood will appear. If you shoot him in the heart, S-108 will lose consciousness for a while. But after literally a couple of hours, the body is restored, as if nothing had happened. If he could change his appearance, he would have gotten out of the cell a long time ago. Naruto bit his lip. Are you disgusted by the very fact that so many experiments were conducted on this object? This is disgusting, Professor. He is a living creature after all, who kills all living things. Orochimaru finished the sentence. Show me the video footage. The researcher stood up, straightened his black and blue robe, the uniform of the overseers, and, grabbing the control panel from the table, nodded towards the painting on the wall. A couple of clicks and the work of art turned into a liquid crystal screen. Having selected the desired recording, Orochimaru started playing. Professor Uzumaki immediately felt uneasy. On the screen, a test subject in a dark green uniform was shaking. When the recording began, he was at the entrance to the connection chamber. The guard opened the door, let the man inside, and immediately closed the passage. The screen flickered. Now the recording from another camera was shown. At first, nothing happened. The camera caught the test subject pressed against the wall, and S-108. He doesn't do it right away. As if he's playing around, Orochimaru commented. See, he doesn't even move a finger. The test subject screamed piercingly, trying to hide from the subject's gaze. There were no external changes, but the man twitched as if something was breaking down inside him. Naruto winced. The screams became louder and suddenly the test subject's fingertips began to melt, disintegrate into pieces. The man was disintegrating into molecules right before his eyes. Note, Naruto-san. First of all, it destroys non-vital places. Fingers, palms, hands, then feet, legs. Then it goes to the skin, muscles and organs, without which a person can live a little longer. I don't know how he manages to control the pain shock. Uzumaki clasped his hands together, trying to calm his nervous trembling. Yes, he had seen a lot during his career, but this is simply monstrous. I'm sure S-108 is able to speed up the process of destruction. It just likes it. It likes suffering and screams. Noticing how the man in the video's jaw dropped, Naruto looked away. And animals? The same result. Even insects. Disassembles into molecules. Nothing remains at all. Well, do you still want to chat with this death machine about the weather? There was so much mockery in the last words that Naruto couldn't hold back. If people weren't so cruel to him, I'm sure he wouldn't do things like this. The man in the video continued to scream shrilly. Please turn it off. You wanted to see the results of the experiments yourself. Orochimaru spread his arms wide, but still turned off the recording. In any case, I believe that your methods will not help. We can do everything possible to keep S-108 in the isolation ward forever. Protecting the world from the killer, and keeping his existence a secret, these are our tasks. And careless chatter is a waste of time. I ask you to stop speaking out against my methods, Naruto answered, raising his voice slightly. Do you want to look at a more interesting recording? Orochimaru did not consider it necessary to respond to the professor's attacks and quickly clicked the remote control. Uzumaki managed to notice that the next recording was called Light. This time, an empty communication chamber appeared on the screen. On its other side there was a device that vaguely resembled a cannon. This laser is protected by block gas and is fully mechanized. My invention. As I understand it, S-108 is not capable of destroying, yes, it can only destroy organic matter. And nothing but block gas can stop it. What's the secret? Naruto rubbed his chin with a habitual motion. Block gas? The composition is top secret. It is harmless to humans. And where did you get it from to make this laser? The development department will share any amount of gas. As much as you want. Got it. A thin blue light beam rushed straight to the subject's face. S-108 winced, just like a person who had a laser pointer shown in his face. This is low power. A quiet hum was heard off-screen, and a grimace of pain distorted his beautiful face. Do you see? His eyes, it feels like they have no irises. I think he sees more than we can imagine. Naruto bit his lip, watching as a dark spot appeared under the point of light on S-108's eyelid. You burned his eyes, just an experiment. Don't forget about it. Orochimaru sped up the playback and stopped at the most useful moment for the study. Instead of eyes, there were burned holes on the subject's face from which a liquid flowed, very similar to blood. Light, S-108 exhaled. Light. Light. Naruto froze, again feeling the same treacherous tremor. This creature had a very low, velvety voice. A memory appeared before the professor's inner eye, S-108's indifferent look and whisper, enough. Light, the subject repeated. Now the death machine looked like an ordinary suffering person. This is terrible. I asked you to refrain from commenting? And now, the culmination of the process. Orochimaru cried out with some kind of childish delight. S-108's face was distorted by a terrible grimace, and a loud scream hit the eardrums. Enough. The video suddenly ended. He somehow damaged the cameras, the professor explained, returning the picture to its original appearance and putting the remote aside. In any case, you have seen enough. Most likely, the subject knows some more words. But you see what I had to do to get at least something out of him. And have you tried talking? Unusual yellow eyes stared at Professor Uzumaki. Of course, I tried. He is silent, or mumbles his, enough. In the end, they once tried to talk to me too. So I tried your tactics. With you? The overseer's light eyebrows shot up. Oh, you didn't know? They used to call me B-17, and I also once hung out in those wonderful isolation wards. Grinning predatorily, Orochimaru suddenly stuck out his long tongue. Naruto recoiled. Didn't expect that. They also call me a snake, Having taken his tongue back, the professor laughed loudly. It's okay, Uzumaki-san, you'll find even worse things in the first lab. Get used to it. Although I think you've already seen the most terrible things. Orochimaru eloquently turned his gaze to the document in Naruto's hands. Remember, S-108 doesn't know what pity and compassion are. He revels in pain and death. So your research may end in complete failure. If you feel that you can't do anything, abandon this stupid idea. Thank you for the advice, Naruto nodded. Good luck to you, Uzumaki-san. The young overseer stood up and hurried out of the office. Of course, heading to the first lab, he expected to see anything, but for the subject to be one of the leading researchers of the complex. Fatigue was taking its toll. Naruto rubbed his eyes and wandered to his office. It was small, but quite comfortable. In any case, much more comfortable than in the previous laboratory. In the middle of the office there was a desk on which several hundred folders were already resting, all the research from the archive marked S-108. On the right was a wardrobe, on the left a large shelf with books. The works of other overseers were gathering dust there. Books about mutations, aliens, and other nonsense. Yes, when faced with something like this, it is difficult not to believe in the existence of other civilizations. Although the professor tried with all his might not to think about the new object, thoughts about S-108 did not want to leave his head. With each passing second, the confidence that this creature could be understood was rapidly decreasing. And he had not yet started working. In any case, it was not worth starting work on the day of his arrival, because fatigue could cause him to miss something important. And here every detail could be important. Uzumaki threw the folder on the table with a sigh. The first laboratory was gradually revealing its secrets to him. Chapter 2. Enough. Professor Uzumaki's day began unpleasantly. With rereading the reports detailing all 108 attempts to destroy S-108. What the researchers didn't try. They used fire, water, poison, metal, electricity, weapons. The object withstood everything. Some of the methods struck Naruto with their cruelty. Experiment number 88. The object's body was restored even when split. S-108 was cut into 20 pieces. It is unclear which organ allowed the object to restore itself, but depending on the damage, it took different amounts of time. In this case, S-108 restored itself in 7 hours and 13 minutes. Experiment number 95. Acid. The flesh burned to the bone, but the brain remained intact. The researchers concluded that it was made of some kind of super-resistant indestructible matter, but it is impossible to study it. All experiments were carried out using robots, which the object is not able to influence. After this experiment, S-108 was placed in restraining mechanisms, which are still successfully coping with the work. If you try to free yourself, the main device in the chest area will pierce the heart. After the mechanism is triggered, it takes an average of 2 hours and 48 minutes to recover. Experiment number 107. S-108 was burned alive using electricity. During this experiment, he said the word, enough, for the first time. The recovery lasted 9 hours. Naruto closed the folder and leaned back in his chair with a sigh. All these terrible notes gave him a headache. And he only read part of the proposed documents, marked, important. During the 27 years that the object was under surveillance, he was killed several times. It's scary to even imagine the torment S-108 experienced, dying several times a day. I wonder if the recovery process also causes pain? Uzumaki stood up from his usual place. He didn't even notice how he had been sitting at the documents for 3 hours. He wanted to start researching, but he couldn't go to the cell without knowing anything about the life of S-108. After making a small circle around the office, Naruto decided to walk to the buffet for coffee. You are Professor Uzumaki, right? A quiet voice sounded right next to the ear of the overseer, who was concentrating on making espresso. Naruto turned around and saw a pretty girl with unusually bright hair. Her lips, lined with indecently bright lipstick, stretched into a saccharine smile. My name is Haruno Sakura. I am a first-rank trainee subordinate to Yakushi. Kabuto. He told me about you. Nice to meet you, Uzumaki smiled weakly, taking a mug out of the coffee machine. They say you're the new supervisor of S-108? I didn't think Orochimaru-sama would give that pest to someone else. He's not a pest, the professor answered. The smile disappeared from his face. S-108 hates humans for what they did to him. And you really are an unusual person. Do you think the subject has feelings? Coming from the girl, the words sounded like it was the most stupid thing one could imagine. Yes. There is, Uzumaki answered coldly and, gripping the mug of coffee more comfortably, went back to the office. The only thing missing was stupid interns with their advice and views on his research. Trying to ignore his accelerating pulse, Naruto carefully pressed the blue button. Kabuto made some note in the report. I think you'd better leave, Dr. Yakushi. Why? It would be better if our acquaintance took place without witnesses. I have to record the progress of the experiment. The doctor, out of habit, adjusted his round glasses that were sliding down to the tip of his nose. There are cameras here, right? Yes, but according to the rules of the lab, written confirmation is required. What stupid rules, Naruto answered, feeling how icy fear paralyzed his body. From under the massive door, one could see S-108's naked chest and that same terrible device. When you're ready, turn on the microphone. It's a button with the letter M. The subject will hear you through the speakers. The professor bit his lip. The door finally stopped. Now one could see the killer in all his glory. Long eyelashes trembled. S-108 opened his eyes and unmistakably looked in the direction where the overseer's room was. Straight into the eyes of his new enemy. Hello, Naruto exhaled. Just one look made him start to tremble violently. The professor suddenly came to his senses, pressed a button and said louder, Hello. Not a single muscle moved on the subject's perfect face. My name is Uzumaki Naruto. I am your new supervisor. I don't want to call you by those stupid numbers. Maybe you could tell me your name? S-108 remained silent. Yakushi was actively recording the dialogue. I won't hurt you. Please believe me, when I'm around you're safe. Nothing has changed. Naruto sighed. Okay. Listen. You've been in this cage for a very long time. I'm the person who wants and can help you. I need to know if you want this help. Enough. Came from the speakers. The hair on the back of the professor's neck stood on end from this ominous sound. S-108, like the first time, said the word in a whisper. So no? You don't want to? I won't force you. The subject blinked. His gaze dropped down and again directed straight at Uzumaki. Then Naruto took a few steps to the right. S-108's eyes also shifted. There was no doubt that the creature was watching him. If he says enough, what will you do? Dr. Yakushi asked, looking up from his recording. I'll leave him alone for today. I told you I won't force him. You can continue the therapy regardless, didn't you hear? I will do as I see fit. Naruto looked again at S-108's terrifyingly deep eyes. There was no glare on the surface of the eyes, which only convinced the professor that they were absorbing photons. Tell me, the guard asked quietly. Enough. S-108 answered confidently. This time, out loud. The professor nodded, pressed the red button, and the huge door slammed down. As soon as it happened, Naruto turned off the microphone. Leaning against the control panel, he wiped his forehead with the sleeve of his black and blue robe. What now? Kabuto asked. I must take his wishes into account. He doesn't want to talk today, he'll want it tomorrow. It could take months, Dr. Yakushi. He can't trust people after what they did to him, do you understand? Have you read the documents from the archive? Yes, it's just. I can't even describe how inhumane it is. He's suffering like a normal person. Just don't scream. Most likely, he has a high pain threshold. How do you know what he feels? Professor Uzumaki started screaming. All you can do is make assumptions, put forward theories, and try out methods of destruction on him. It's cruel. S-108 is just an object under the supervision of the first laboratory. He has feelings. Naruto punched the control panel in frustration. It's you who don't seem to have them. Sorry, Professor Uzumaki. Perhaps you're right. I didn't mean to offend you, Yakushi said apologetically. It's okay, forget it. Naruto straightened up and quickly left the room. The professor spent the rest of the day studying the oldest documents from the archive. Each time, S-108 lost consciousness, but after some time, it began to recreate itself again. In some reports, Naruto found confirmation of a terrible guess. While recovering, the subject was conscious. In some places, there were mentions of terrible torment that the creature experienced while trying to recreate lost limbs and organs. High pain threshold, huh? Muttered the professor, rubbing his eye. The door to the office opened slightly, and Orochimaru looked through the resulting gap. Good evening. Have you settled into your new place, Uzumaki-san? Good. I'm getting used to it little by little. Your coffee is not bad. A malicious grin stretched across the snake's pale face. How is the research going? The first attempt to talk yielded no results. But this is only the first attempt. I tried to talk to the last subject for several weeks, and here, it may take months. Just don't immerse yourself in the work. S-108 is a problematic comrade, so perhaps nothing will come of it. You don't believe in my powers at all, Naruto chuckled. What are you saying? I believe in you, but you understand how complicated everything is. Orochimaru-san, when was the last time you experimented on my facility? Let me think. 3 years ago, there was an experiment with a laser. Since then, no one has touched it. They only put mice and spiders into the chamber. Have you tried all living creatures? Naruto frowned. Of course not. Dogs, cats, mice, spiders, lizards, flies. People. The smile on the professor's face grew even wider. Well, and a few others. Everything is written in the reports. Okay, thank you for the information. You're welcome, Uzumaki-san. How about a cup of coffee at the end of the workday? I want to hear stories about your research. Yes, I can, the guard nodded. You know, I'll tell you one thing. In the first lab, the guards get nicknames among the interns. They call me the Snake and the Executioner. What nicknames do you think they gave you? Do you already know? Uzumaki ran his hand through his unruly blonde hair. I know. I heard it from Yakushi. A pacifist and a chatterbox. Funny, isn't it? They noticed correctly. Naruto grinned and stood up. Let's go, Orochimaru-sama. I'll tell you why these nicknames suit me better than anyone else. Chapter 3, named in 2 weeks, the new employee of the first laboratory, Professor Uzumaki, managed to achieve results, prolonging the time of dialogue with S-108. On average, the object interrupted the conversation after 10 to 11 minutes. Not a bad result, considering that at the beginning of the experiment he said the word, enough. After about 4 minutes, Naruto studied all the documentation, one way or another connected with the object. What surprised him most was that S-108 never tried to escape. He humbly accepted all the torture and killed only when a living creature got into the area of influence, that is, into the binding chamber. Naruto also learned that in addition to the binding chamber, the containment chamber is also filled with block gas. If in such conditions the object easily uses its abilities, then under normal conditions it has even more monstrous power. It is quite possible that, once outside the chamber, S-108 can destroy the entire staff of the first laboratory in a few seconds. In addition to all this, Naruto was wary of 2 things. First, there was a note in the new records, written in the painfully familiar handwriting of Professor Orochimaru. The potential of S-108 has not been revealed. If the snake meant destructive potential, one should not discard the assumption that the effect on organic matter is not the only ability of S-108. Second, it turned out that not a single report mentioned that in the experiment called light. S-108 was able to affect the operation of the camera. Uzumaki reviewed the video several more times and made sure that the time of its shutdown exactly coincided with the last scream. It seemed that the object really affected the device. This is proof of Orochimaru's assumption, but the doctor who recorded the experiment did not consider it necessary to mention it in the report. They tried to hide it. With each line he read, Uzumaki became more and more afraid. Undoubtedly, this creature is the most dangerous of all the creatures that the first research laboratory is monitoring. But all the S and A rank creatures were gathered here. The professor saw a plant girl, a pseudo-human with many eyes, a shark man, a guy who could grow new bones. But none of them could compare to S-108. And yet Naruto couldn't hate him. Every day the warden saw pain and a silent scream in his terrifying gaze. Was S-108 capable of expressing any emotions, or was this his usual state? More and more questions arose in Uzumaki's head. And I tell him, why are you staring at me like I'm an idiot? It was so much fun. Really? Only I almost got fired. Well, it happens to everyone, right? Professor Uzumaki chattered, smiling carelessly. He's been listening to you for 14 minutes already. Yakushi commented quietly. A record. Naruto fell silent. For a second, despair overcame him. What else could he do? Ask? He asked, and more than once. But is the subject able to perceive the intonation of a voice? You have a name, right? I know you do. Just tell me. Please, the warden asked. S-108 was silent, slowly moving his gaze from the professor to the doctor and back. Suddenly, the door to the room opened slightly. Kabuto looked up from the recording and quietly whispered, Naruto-san, Orochimaru-sama is here. I'll go out. Yes, Uzumaki answered without taking his eyes off the black eyes. Enough, S-108 exhaled. Naruto reluctantly reached for the red button. It was a pity that S-108 decided to cut off the conversation. Again, but 14 minutes was really a record. Sorry, Naruto added. I'm still afraid of you. Uzumaki touched the button with his fingertips, but what he heard made him stop and freeze. Sasuke. The professor jerked his head up and was surprised that he managed to stay on his feet. His heart skipped a beat and then started beating faster. A strange, anxious feeling overwhelmed Naruto. What? You said? Uzumaki asked in a trembling voice. His tongue refused to obey his master. Name. My name. Naruto froze in his original position, holding his hand on the button and looking at S-108 in surprise. The monster behind the glass smiled at him faintly. The very fact that S-108 was actually capable of expressing emotions scared Naruto even more than anything he had seen before. Do you understand me? The object blinked slowly, and his perfect face once again became distant and indifferent. Yes. 4 new words in a minute. The supervising professor felt dizzy. Even if contact cannot be established, this is a real achievement. Your name is Sasuke? Yes. Some vague guesses stirred in Uzumaki's head, but he had no time for them now. Do you feel pain? Naruto asked the first thing that came to mind. He was so shocked by S-108's answers that he forgot all the prepared questions. Yes. Do you want? The door opened slightly. Dr. Yakushi returned to the room. Enough, the subject said. Smiling, pressing the red button, Uzumaki decided that the cheerful notes in the subject's velvety voice were hallucinations due to lack of sleep. Did I miss something? Kabuto asked. All the most interesting things. The door slid down with the usual crash, but Uzumaki didn't even notice it. The high-frequency squeak was still ringing in his ears, and the name of the incredibly beautiful immortal creature echoed in his mind. Well, congratulations! Orochimaru was ranting, waving his glass of wine from side to side. 4 new words. You know, you are a genius, Naruto-san. I admit I used to doubt that you would be able to get our giant to talk. I realized that from the first minutes of our acquaintance, Uzumaki shrugged. You simply do not understand the power of words. You only have to imagine that the creature behind the glass is an ordinary person, and it becomes easy to talk to him. This is your merit and success. Orochimaru touched the warden's glass with his own. To you! And drank the wine in one gulp. Naruto took a small sip. Warmth spread in his chest, and alcohol had nothing to do with it. Sasuke wanted to talk only with him. Perhaps this would have happened earlier if Kabuto had left the room more often. This fact gave him hope and undoubtedly made him happy. Now the professor wanted only one thing, for tomorrow to come as soon as possible. Tell me, how many S-rank creatures are there in the first laboratory? Only 8, but all of them are dangerous only under certain conditions. And your friend is always dangerous. The management even wanted to assign him a special rank. Tell me about the management of the first laboratory. Well, Uchiha runs the show Madara, the chief researcher. He has a lot of achievements, titles and academic degrees. A smart guy, but a bit secretive. He liked the object S-108 so much that he even wanted to give it his last name. How long did Uchiha-sama study it? From the very beginning. Under his leadership, S-108 was found. At first, the object did not have a number, because Madara-san gave the order to destroy it at any cost. The object was tortured for several years, and then the researchers realized that everything was useless. Then the chief gave it a number and a rank. From that day on, they experimented on it, studied it. And you know the rest. Where was he found? This information is classified. I only know that he was killed for the first time that day. The man who did it was frightened by the eyes of a stranger. The victim called the police and S-108 was taken to the morgue. Orochimaru said as if he found the story extremely funny. I don't remember how many people died when it was restored, but the subject was killed again. Then it fell into Madara's hands. Where did he come from? There's no point in trying to find an answer to that question, Naruto-san. There's only the irrefutable fact of S-108's existence. And then there's the fact that you managed to get him to talk. Maybe you'll find out where he came from him. Maybe. Oh, right. Besides Madara, there are 4 more people. They're simply called the elite. No one knows their names. That's how it is. Interesting. Thank you for the invitation and the wine. Putting his glass on the table, Uzumaki stood up. At that moment, Dr. Yakushi literally flew into the office. The door slammed loudly into the wall, causing those present to flinch. Professor Orochimaru. At that very second, a loud siren sounded. A mechanical female voice announced, "Attention. Subject S-108 has left the isolation ward. In order to protect the civilian population, the first laboratory will be locked down in 5 seconds. Attention." Naruto staggered and fell back into his chair. Someone let him out of the isolation ward, Kabuto said with difficulty. The man was shaking so much that just looking at him was terrifying. I was at the guard's room when it happened. 5, 4, the female robot continued. The control room was hacked? Orochimaru asked, pulling out some kind of weapon from a desk drawer. 3, 2. Jumping to his feet, Naruto pushed Dr. Yakushi aside. 1. There was a roar, meaning that all exits from the lab were blocked. The siren's beeping grew louder, but Uzumaki didn't notice it. The sounds reached his ears as if through cotton wool. His heart pounded with fear, horror, and the realization that a terrible monster was free, and they were all now trapped. Uzumaki-san! Kabuto shouted after the professor. Naruto moved down the corridor, gradually quickening his pace. He knew that it was impossible to escape. I just wanted to meet S-108 first. There were some terrible screams coming from somewhere. Uzumaki ran towards the noise and froze, noticing a strange-looking shadow ahead. Chapter 4, The Meeting. Naruto swallowed slowly, as if in a trance, feeling the booming beats of his own heart. Fear was too simple a word to describe his state. The ominous silence thickened, the air seemed to grow heavier, as it became more and more difficult to draw into his lungs with each passing second. When the shadow at the end of the corridor suddenly disappeared from his sight, Uzumaki shuddered. The lamps illuminating the corridor began to flicker and explode, and the approaching darkness forced Naruto to take a couple of steps back. Only one thought persistently beat in his head: he had underestimated S-108. All the researchers had underestimated him. Only one moment was straining Naruto even more than what was happening. Someone had deliberately released Sasuke. That was a fact. He couldn't have gotten out on his own. Perhaps that person was already outside the lab, celebrating ridding the world of S and A rank monsters who would die along with all the staff. It was no great loss to save humanity. But that person probably didn't think that S-108 wasn't simple. The professor peered into the darkness of the corridor with horror. The fear grew stronger, and his body absolutely didn't want to obey his master. What was he thinking, trying to find him? If S-108 said his name, it was no guarantee of safety, and certainly not a sign of trust. Sasuke, Naruto called quietly. The last whole lamp snatched part of the space ahead, and this gave the warden hope that he would notice the approaching object. But only a second passed. S-108's face appeared a few centimeters from the professor's face. Uzumaki barely held back the scream of horror bursting from his throat, and took another step back in surprise. The empty black eyes were so close that you could see every coal-black eyelash. Disheveled long hair fell down her shoulders, chest and back, and the ends of the strands touched the floor. Sasuke seemed so fragile, such a weak creature that Naruto wanted to hug him. But he couldn't move and take his eyes off those creepy, incredibly beautiful eyes. Naruto! S-108 said. Without emotion, just stating the fact. The warden carefully moved his elbow. The subject didn't react to this action in any way. Then, emboldened, the professor slowly extended his hand forward. A strange pain appeared somewhere in the area of the heart. Please don't be afraid. I won't hurt you, the professor said with difficulty. The pain became stronger. Are you here because I called you, Sasuke? S-108 narrowed his eyes slightly, examining the outstretched hand. Without thinking twice, he carefully repeated the movement and touched the outstretched palm with his fingertips. Naruto felt a light touch. S-108's hand was cold, like that of an ordinary person who had spent some time outside on a winter day. Uzumaki involuntarily recalled Orochimaru's words. The first thing he does is destroy his fingers. Nothing terrible was happening, and the pain in his chest disappeared. The warden looked down at S-108's long, strong nails, which barely touched his wrist. The shot thundered like a bolt from the blue. Naruto felt as if his insides had fallen somewhere down. The thin, long fingers suddenly clenched. The professor cried out in pain. His hand felt like it was being squeezed in an iron vise. They had killed him again. Why? Naruto screamed when S-108 fell right on his chest. Orochimaru stood at the other end of the corridor with his gun pointed forward. We only have 2 hours to put him back in the isolation cell. Don't waste time chatting, Uzumaki-san. He didn't do anything. The warden carefully freed his hand. Following the severe dizziness and nausea came pain shock. What happened to your arm? Orochimaru asked. I don't know, maybe your fingers are broken. Naruto sank to the floor next to the lifeless S-108. The professor had never experienced such horror in his life. Now even a broken arm seemed like a piece of cake. I should thank you? If you hadn't distracted S-108, things could have ended much worse. I didn't distract him, I was trying to talk to him. Naruto snapped. Dr. Kabuto appeared from somewhere. He carefully picked up Sasuke in his arms. Uzumaki noticed scarlet stains on the perfectly white floor. You need to go to the medical department. I'll take you there. Why did you shoot him? Because otherwise he would have killed you, Naruto-san. And then everyone else. Calm down, your beloved will come to in a couple of hours. He didn't wish me harm. He said my name. You know that Sasuke is capable of destroying organic matter in a matter of seconds. And you already call him Sasuke with such ease? Orochimaru grinned and helped the professor to his feet. He is a monster. Please do not forget about it, Uzumaki-san. You are the monster, Naruto hissed. The pain shock was gradually passing, and the pain in his hand was becoming unbearable. If it weren't for you, I would have had a chance to find out at least something. I told him that when I'm around, he is safe, and now, calm down. You are not yourself. You need help and rest. I'll take you. Naruto fell silent, looking at Orochimaru with some kind of wild rage in his eyes. He was furious, but what's done is done. All that remained was to hope that 2 weeks would not go down the drain because of this incident. When the general meeting was announced, Naruto was sitting in his office. The professor's right hand was carefully plastered. A minor fracture of 3 fingers. It wasn't that scary, considering that he could have died in that ill-fated corridor. That meeting turned his whole perception of the world upside down. Naruto listened to the sounds every second, shuddered when someone's footsteps were heard near his office, and was afraid to turn off the light. He was slowly going crazy. This vague fear, some unpleasant, anxious feeling overcame him when he was alone. Only 3 days had passed since that incident, but Naruto felt like he had been living in a whirlpool of anxiety for several years. Every second dragged on for hours, every day lasted for years. Having collected his thoughts, Uzumaki stood up. His appearance eloquently hinted that he had not slept for 3 days. Deep shadows lay under his dull blue eyes, his light hair was like a bird's nest, even his striped cheeks had become a little sunken. The usual black robe with a blue border over a regular shirt was wrinkled in places. So the reflection in the mirror upset Uzumaki even more. At his previous place of work, he was famous for his beauty and youth. A successful young man who received the title of professor at 22. A real young genius. Of course, no one guessed how much work Naruto had done to achieve such results. How many sleepless nights he spent over books, how much effort he put into studying, how much he sacrificed in order to get into the first laboratory and promote a special type of talk therapy. Personal life, entertainment, free time, all this was inaccessible to Uzumaki. And now someone had appeared who had deprived him of peace forever. S-108. Sasuke. A creature possessing a beauty comparable to the beauty of a predator, opening its mouth and baring its sharpest fangs. Deadly beauty. His fate was dark and gloomy. To be shackled and breathe, feeling the sharp metal spike on his skin that would pierce his heart if he tried to move. And to listen. To listen to the voice of the one who would dare to speak to him. Naruto didn't want to betray the thin trust that had grown between them. But reality could be cruel. The entire staff had gathered in the central lab. Naruto saw 2 photographs crossed out with a black stripe on the wall opposite the entrance. Sasuke had managed to kill 2. Or he could have killed them all. A man in a black robe stood in the middle of the room. The head researcher, Uchiha Madara. His face was hidden by a mask. Only his left eye was barely visible from a small hole. Good evening, employees. I have gathered you here so that we can honor the memory of 2 wonderful people, successful, intelligent, who provided invaluable assistance to the development of the center, and who died at the hands of the infamous S-108 facility. An error in the control system is the reason for what happened. Naruto frowned. A system error, of course. We will do everything possible to ensure that this never happens again. In honor of these wonderful people, I declare a moment of silence. The silence seemed like torture to Naruto. But as soon as it ended, the real torture began. Professor Uzumaki Naruto. I know that you are currently the overseer of S-108. Yes, the professor said in a weak voice. Let's go. Madara moved like a shadow toward the exit. Naruto trudged after him, fighting a fit of despair. Where? To the overseer's room. Naruto really didn't like all of this. Why? You must punish the subject. Something like this must not happen again, the Uchiha said. I will not do this, Naruto declared. With every step, the fear grew stronger. This is not my method. I do not care about your whims. You will do whatever is necessary, otherwise I will deprive you of this position, Madara answered simply. Orochimaru was already waiting for them at the right room. When the three of them were inside, Naruto clenched his fists and stood away from the control panel. Madara pressed the blue button. Listen. This is not necessary. S-108 has already been killed for attempting to escape, Orochimaru began timidly. Naruto couldn't hide his surprise. The professor tried to stop the head researcher? He should know his place. Uchiha turned on the microphone while waiting for the door to rise. S-108. 3 days ago, you dared to leave the cell and exit the cage. For other subjects, such an act is punishable by death. And for you, several. Uzumaki literally shook with anger. You shouldn't do this. He didn't escape, he was released. You know that it is impossible to escape from the cell. He understands what I'm saying, right? Madara continued as if nothing had happened. The sentence will be carried out by the overseer Uzumaki. Naruto. The door opened completely. Sasuke stood in the same position, looking indifferently at the people in the warden's room. Are you crazy? I won't do this. He's not guilty of anything. What about the 2 employees? Madara asked. 2 lives for 2 deaths. That would be fair. They tried to capture him. Uzumaki continued. Orochimaru put his hand on his shoulder. Uchiha-sama, what about those 108 times? And where are those 108 lives? It seems to me that another execution is unnecessary. I won't do this. Naruto repeated more quietly, looking straight into S-108's eyes. Then I will do it. With one quick movement, Uchiha pressed the far button with the letter U. Naruto flinched, hearing a quiet scream from the speakers. A long metal spike was sticking out of Sasuke's chest. At that moment, something indescribable, heavy, flashed in his eyes. And then only emptiness remained in them. Naruto did not even notice that tears were streaming down his face. Fear and anxiety were gone. Only pain, resentment, and a sense of loss remained. This is how the first laboratory works. Remember, Professor Uzumaki. Madara removed his hand from the surface of the remote control, and the spike quickly retracted back. Chapter 5, Brave. The next morning Naruto felt completely broken. As soon as he had the chance, he looked into the overseer's room and tried to talk to Sasuke alone. But the subject remained deathly silent. He didn't even try to stop the monologue like before. S-108 was just silent. And he looked at him differently. With contempt. Naruto tried to apologize, useless. 4 hours later, he returned to his office. The professor was rushing around like an animal in a cage, broke a carafe of water, threw the documents on the floor, and sat down in the corner. There was a lump in his throat. It was not just annoyance. Yes, Naruto had failed before, but never in such pain, to tears, to screaming, to hysteria. He was so angry at the head researcher that he even came up with several ways to take revenge. Of course, his plans were not destined to come true, because he was a master of words, a professor known as a chatty pacifist. One who heals and saves. Revenge is for the faint-hearted or the weak-willed. Certainly not for Naruto. There was a soft knock on the door. Receiving no answer, the unexpected guest decided to peek in. Uzumaki-san, are you all right? Professor Orochimaru examined the mess. It seems that you are not. Orochimaru-sama, you do understand that he was released from the isolation ward, right? He did not escape. It is impossible to escape from there. His potential is not realized. Do not forget about it. Maybe he got out on his own. Naruto raised his heavy gaze. Then why didn't he get out earlier? In 27 years. Sasuke could have done this 1,000 times. Calm down. Orochimaru began to collect the scattered documents. You think about this too much. You need to rest. You see, he is silent. All my work has gone down the drain. How long will it take me to return everything to the previous level? And is it even possible? How many hours will I have to spend looking at his body shackled hand and foot? Perhaps everything will work out. You are simply overtired. The professor put some of the folders on the table. I am also unhappy with Madara's decision. It is one thing to experiment on an immortal being for the sake of science, and quite another to force you to punish S-108. I admire your ability to talk teeth, Uzumaki-san. You should not despair. Naruto rose to his feet. The broken fingers began to ache again, reminding him of that ill-fated meeting. Thank you, Orochimaru-sama. You helped me. I will ask Dr. Yakushi to put the documents away. Do you mind? No, okay. Orochimaru-sama? What? The dark-haired man froze in the passage. I want to ask you for something. Can you arrange for me to walk around the binding chamber? The professor folded his arms over his chest. This is suicide. I'm willing to trust Sasuke with my life. If he kills you, Madara will kill me, you understand that? Please. Otherwise, there's no point in me staying in Lab 1. The research had reached a dead end. The snake narrowed his eyes. He clearly didn't like the idea, but curiosity still got the better of him. If he tries to kill you, I'll activate the restraining mechanism. Agreed? Naruto bit his lip. Only if I'm injured. Uzumaki-san, this is an extremely pointless experiment. Everything will be fine. Naruto said, more to himself than to the man standing in front of him. Are you ready? Remember, you only have half an hour. Less if S-108 decides to attack. Dr. Yakushi spoke quickly, adjusting the microphone on Uzumaki's robe. You could lose an arm or a leg. It's okay, Kabuto-san. Don't worry. Naruto tried to force a smile. If you feel that everything is hopeless, speak up right away. Don't wait. Yes. Just open the door. Kabuto reluctantly moved to the other end of the room. There was a click, and the massive door slid to the side. Good luck, the doctor whispered. Naruto boldly stepped into the connecting chamber. Orochimaru was closely watching what was happening from the overseer's room. Sasuke, Uzumaki began. Before coming closer, he checked that the earpiece was in place. Listen. I am at your mercy now. I know that if you really want to kill me, then a second will be enough for you. A familiar pain appeared in his chest. Please forgive me for letting this happen to you. Madara has power. If only I could, I would make him feel what you feel. The pain became stronger. With a sharp breath, Uzumaki came even closer to the glass separating them. This glass could also be removed, like the main door, but Orochimaru did not agree to such unsafe conditions. I know that you don't really want to kill. You just want to be free, right? Tell me, Sasuke, you made a big mistake came from the earpiece. No. It's not like that. I'm here because I'm not afraid. Naruto put his hand on the glass. If you want, you can kill me. Why are you doing this? Only now did the warden realize that S-108 had spoken to him. Fully. I want to help you. If you want, I will come here at least every day. People like to lie. It's not a lie. Naruto felt like he couldn't breathe. The pain became unbearable. Then die. The professor ran his fingertips over the glass and pressed his forehead to it. A squeak appeared in his ears, everything swam before his eyes. S-108 affected him somehow differently, not like it affected other victims. As you wish. Suddenly, everything stopped just as abruptly. It became easier to breathe without the aching pain, but Naruto clearly felt a metallic taste on his tongue. Why did you stop? He smiled faintly. You're not like everyone else. You're brave. Is that a compliment? The warden laughed. I'm just stating a fact. Uzumaki wiped beads of sweat from his forehead. Not only had Sasuke left him alive, he had spoken. For real, like a normal person. At the same time, it seemed like he knew a lot about the world around him. Even despite the fact that he had spent 27 years locked up. You forgave me? Sasuke frowned slightly. This action delighted Naruto. You're the only person who asked me for forgiveness. I don't know what it means to forgive. Well, you're not angry anymore, are you? I don't understand you. Many people don't understand me. Tell me, Sasuke, why did you leave the isolation cell? It's hard to breathe here. Uzumaki nodded. Of course, S-108 just wanted to be where there was no block gas, that's all. He wasn't even thinking about escaping, and those employees stood in his way. It's my fault that you were caught. I hope you really forgave me. S-108 slowly lowered his gaze. Naruto repeated the movement and stared at his plastered arm. Is this serious? The subject asked. No, it's not serious. A couple of bones are broken. Uzumaki smiled. Talking to S-108 turned out to be very easy. Should I apologize too? The question was so sincere, so childishly naive, that the professor was at a loss at first. Sasuke knew almost nothing about human communication. If you consider yourself guilty, then probably yes. Then forgive me. Uzumaki smiled radiantly, and the corners of Sasuke's thin pale lips lifted slightly. He's simply amazing. Orochimaru barely managed to say. Kabuto, look at him. Careless chatter with the most dangerous creature on the planet. Pleasantries are exchanged. Dr. Yakushi adjusted his glasses with a grin. I think the one whose potential you've underestimated is him. So proper, so good, so perfect. A spherical horse. Kabuto laughed. You know, maybe he'll learn a lot from S-108. It's a shame we're not recording this experience. We can't let Madara-sama know about this, so Naruto-san will tell us everything himself. And you're ready to break the rules for S-108. Are you that interested in him? Not the word, Kabuto. I'm sure that this fragile shell hides a much more curious creature. And when it breaks free, we'll be there to capture it. Rather selfish. You know me. The rest of the day passed unnoticed for Naruto. His soul was light. Nothing could overshadow this personal triumph, victory, and the fact that he remained alive. This time, the professor was convinced that Sasuke was able to speak and understand speech. Either he had been trained to do this before he came under the lab's supervision, or S-108 was somehow able to listen to what was going on around him. Maybe he also had telepathic abilities? There was plenty of food for thought. Naruto immediately entered the results into his personal electronic diary. He decided for himself that he couldn't trust the first lab. Somewhere in the depths of Uzumaki's consciousness, a warm feeling appeared. Anticipation of something extraordinary? Satisfaction? He couldn't explain it, but he knew for sure that S-108 had become dear to him. Extremely dear. Chapter 6 Feel. Several more long weeks passed before the first storm clouds appeared in the cloudless sky. Uzumaki was beside himself with rage. He literally flew down the corridor, and his black robe, buttoned up by a couple of the top buttons, ominously fluttered behind him. It was even strange that such a peace-loving person could look so frightening. Uzumaki-san! The pink-haired girl waved her hand. Naruto rushed past like a whirlwind, without even looking in her direction. The brunette standing next to her blinked her long, painted eyelashes. Who is this? Ah, Hinata, this fruit is not for us, Sakura answered with annoyance. This is the overseer S-108. I tried to drag him out on a date. A rotten number. So young, the girl slowly drawled. Is it possible to get the title of professor at such a young age? As you can see. I bet he's never touched anything but his dry books. What a chatterbox. How did you manage to not notice? I don't know, this is the first time I've seen him. How long has he been working? A month already. I'm so inattentive, Hinata smiled sweetly, tucking a dark strand of hair behind her ear. I wonder why he's so angry. What the hell? Uzumaki slammed his palm on the table, causing it to stagger dangerously. Some rare book about supernatural creatures fell to the floor. Madara gave permission to conduct experiments? Yes, he contacted the doctors who had been developing new ways to destroy S-108 all this time. Orochimaru spun in his chair, skeptically looking at the unfortunate book. You could have forbidden it, but Uchiha-san allowed it, and he is higher in position. And when? The first scientist will arrive in a week. I can't let them bully him again. Naruto was literally radiating an aura of rage. We have to do something. The dark-haired professor spun around once more. Now he was facing the visitor again, with a very strange expression on his face. Uzumaki froze in anticipation, hoping that there was at least some loophole. Lately, he and Sasuke had been communicating more and more often. The professor talked about his life, family, past, about everything that came to mind. The subject asked questions, often strange, but answering them was quite funny. Preferring to listen, Sasuke did not want to tell anything about himself. For some reason, Naruto felt that there was a reason for this, but he did not dare ask. Their connection was too fragile. Communication had become a necessity. A habit. Now this crystal idol could be destroyed, and all because of Madara's manic desire to destroy S-108. You said that Sasuke liked Madara. Yes, a very interesting toy. His desire to give this immortal creature his last name is due to a stupid love of collecting. He is a strange person in general. Don't worry about it. He is not a toy. And not a testing ground. Naruto-san. If I give you access to the control system, what will you do? Orochimaru looked straight at the overseer with his unusually bright yellow eyes. This look immediately made everyone uneasy, because it carried a special load. What was strange was how serious the snake's face became. Only a maniac obsessed with his business could have such a face. What? The professor even took a step back. What will I do? The control system allows. Yes. Release Sasuke. Will you do it? Yes. I will. I will take him away from here, Uzumaki answered almost without thinking. A plan immediately formed in his head. It so happened that Naruto currently had 2 apartments at his disposal. One is a permanent place of residence, and the second was bought as a gift for his sister. But Ino went abroad 3 months ago, so the second apartment was empty and was about to be put up for sale. The most important thing is that they have different last names, and even the almighty First Laboratory will not be able to prove their relationship. This means that it will not be easy to find the professor, especially since his parents died in a car accident many years ago. You can live in this apartment for a while to prepare the documents, and then disappear somewhere far away. And end your career? Yes. Orochimaru tilted his head to the side. He was very curious. Naruto had noticed this long ago. The snake always acted only in his own interests. There is an advantage somewhere here. But what? I want to know what else he is capable of, Orochimaru said quietly. It is obvious that in 27 years S-108 has not revealed his abilities. And he will not reveal them. To anyone except you. You are interested in the secret of immortality, aren't you? The professor chuckled. The snake responded with an ingratiating grin. You think correctly. I am B-17 and in fact I hate the system. I am allowed to work here, but I am not allowed to leave the lab. I am a prisoner. But I have only one life, and it is more important to me than freedom. If I get the secret, I will leave this place without a second thought. The guards will always persecute me, but I am not like S-108. I will not sit in isolation and await my fate. I did not expect you to reveal your plans to me. You are a curious person, Naruto-san. You have something that others do not. Orochimaru narrowed his eyes, becoming habitually sarcastic. Compassion. I believe that you will not become a traitor. At least as long as I have the information. And you will not either? As long as we cooperate, I will not. And now I want to ask one thing. S-108 trusted you. Well, no, perhaps he has become attached to you. If this attachment develops into something else, what are you talking about? Okay, I'll ask you straight. Can you imagine what would happen if such a powerful and dangerous being as he felt, Jealousy? Naruto thought about it. Jealousy? You mean, considering that we know practically nothing about him. Anyway, observing your communication sessions, I noticed one thing. And you probably realized it too. S-108 is sitting in a cage because he has no goal. He doesn't know where to go. But you, if you give him a goal or become one yourself, he will show himself in all his glory. We can't know for sure. Maybe he is incapable of experiencing such feelings? Naruto suddenly felt hot. Then teach him. We both know that nothing human is alien to him. Teach him? Teach him to feel. I will help you escape. On one condition. If you can extract the secret, then share it with me. A tooth for a tooth. And if there is no secret? If Sasuke is like this on his own? Then you will give him freedom. Frankly, I am tired of watching this torment. And when I came, you said that he was just a research subject. Orochimaru shrugged, stood up from his seat and picked up an old book from the floor. I should have realized what kind of person you are. In fact, I invented that laser, but Madara-sama ordered to test it on S-108. Good. Then, I want to ask for something. HM? Let me talk to him in person. I assure you it is safe. If he wanted to, he would have killed me long ago. The snake nodded weakly. Naruto, inspired by the idea, literally flew out of the office. Stepping over the threshold of the connection chamber, Uzumaki looked closely at the always serene S-108. He had mixed feelings. Firstly, I didn't know whether to tell him about the escape. Secondly, I didn't know whether to tell him about the scientist's arrival. A whisper came through the earpiece. Naruto nodded and waited for the thick bulletproof glass that had been separating them all this time to disappear. S-108's cell was small, much smaller than the connecting space, and the main door was thicker than it. What are you planning? S-108 spoke again. Don't be afraid. I just want to get closer. While the glass was sliding down, Naruto felt some tension in the air. A heavy spirit, like before a thunderstorm or a storm. Sasuke, of course, trusted him, but not completely. As soon as the barrier was gone, the professor risked approaching almost point blank. Very slowly, he extended his hand, barely perceptibly touching the perfect face. Strangely, S-108's hair grew only on his head. Part of his body resembled a woman's, an elegant neck, protruding collarbones, thin arms and wrists, thin legs. Maybe that's why he seemed so attractive to the man? Did you want to protect him? Sasuke closely watched his every movement. If Naruto didn't know that he was afraid of people, he would have decided that they were trying to hypnotize him. Anyone else in the professor's place would have gone crazy from that look. It was comparable to the look of a panther sneaking up on its prey, dangerous, cold and murderous, intent, deep and wild. Sasuke, do you know what love is? Uzumaki had been carefully avoiding such topics all this time. Love is a feeling. Sometimes S-108 amazed with the confidence in his own words. And how does it manifest itself? Sasuke fell silent, thinking about the question. If you don't want to, you don't have to answer, Naruto said almost in a whisper. I'm just wondering if you know what it is. I don't know. Are you able to feel like a human? Feel pain? No. Naruto closed his eyes. Only negative emotions came to mind. Sadness, melancholy, or despair? If you mean mental pain, then yes. This answer simply amazed Naruto. Sasuke knew what people called the soul. All his feelings he could only connect with pain, a physical feeling that proved his existence. If I call, will you come with me? The professor asked after a short thought. Where? Interest appeared in his dark eyes. I will try to hide you from people who only want to cause pain. Naruto stroked S-108's cheek more boldly. The skin was cold and velvety to the touch. He clearly wanted to feel it with his lips. Uzumaki came to his senses and blushed. Only madness was missing for complete happiness. Although, it was probably too late. He was crazy about Sasuke. Isn't it stupid to give up everything for him? Years of study, hours of hard work all for nothing. Naruto for some reason thought that if he ever saw tears in the eyes that remained dry even when S-108 was in terrible pain, he would send the guilty to the chopping block, and he himself would become the executioner. For every salty drop a severed head. Now Naruto could not imagine life without these meetings, frightening eyes, a weak smile and a velvety low voice, which was much more pleasant to listen to in person. What is this? Boundless pity for someone who's suffered for many years? Falling in love with a predatory beauty? What? Of course, he did not forget for a second what a dangerous creature he was dealing with. It's hard to leave here. They will help me. There will be fewer people at night. Kabuto will figure out the defense system, and Orochimaru the control system. I will come for you. Just keep in mind we must leave unnoticed. This means no one can be killed. Escape is not according to the rules. Sasuke moved weakly. Naruto's insides went cold, terrified that the restraining mechanism would activate. If you get caught, you'll be punished. Are you worried? About me? I can't die, but you can. Why risk it? Yeah, you're right. I'm just a normal person, anything can happen to me. But what they're doing to you is wrong. I'm willing to pay any price to get you out. You're not like the others. Yeah, you said that. Naruto laughed quietly. Just trust me. Chapter 7. Energy. Could Naruto have imagined that one day he would decide to betray his cause for the sake of an object? Object, such a cold, disgusting word for the one who stole your heart. The blocks holding Sasuke swung open with a quiet metallic grinding sound. First on his legs, then on his arms, then the restraining mechanism slowly moved apart, and then the wide steel hoop on his neck. S-108 took the first cautious step. Waiting for him to come closer, Naruto threw a black robe over his thin shoulders. It was not easy, considering that the fingers on the professor's right hand moved with difficulty. They had not completely healed, they had to remove the cast ahead of time. Everything is fine. The siren will not go off until we leave the building. After the lab is locked, we need to lie low for a while. I know a place where they will definitely not search, Naruto whispered. The timer went off, and the door leading from the cell to the lab began to open. There are always a lot of problems with this door because of the many locks. They will look for us everywhere. Naruto could not hide his surprise, hearing the sarcasm in S-108's voice. Even if we are far away. And they will find us after some time. We will think of something. We definitely will. I will not let you get hurt again. The door finally opened. Uzumaki listened. It should be very difficult to get Sasuke out of the most secure isolation ward, but not when you have the rule-breaking snake Orochimaru and his loyal servant Kabuto as allies. At this time, there should be only guards and the elite in the building. Madara is absent, that's for sure. As soon as Sasuke stepped into the place where there is no block gas, the lamps began to flicker menacingly. Some of them went out. Naruto shuddered, unconsciously remembering the meeting in the corridor and that sticky fear, but everything stopped as suddenly as it began. Why does electricity react to S-108's movement? Has no one noticed before? Surely the previous guards tried to hide this fact, as in the case of the influence on the camera. New questions, new secrets. The guards, on Orochimaru's orders, must patrol the lower floor. There is little time, he must hurry. Naruto moved along the corridor, S-108 following silently. His steps were completely silent. Because of this, the professor often turned around to check if he had escaped. But no, Sasuke followed, and his appearance was even more sinister. Silent gait, smooth movements. A rare flickering of light began, then stopped again. Naruto paused. Why does electricity react? He asked quietly, peeking out from around the corner. All that was left was to walk along the floor, go down the stairs and exit through the back door. I'll tell you everything later. This promise made Naruto very happy. But the weak spark of joy died out when voices were heard at the other end of the corridor. The guards decided to go back the same way. Some of the employees had devices that sent an SOS signal, so no one could be killed. Some kind of predatory interest played in Sasuke's dark eyes. If before he seemed indifferent to everything, now, it seemed, some emotions were slowly awakening in him. Naruto could be proud of himself. "What are we going to do?" S-108 whispered. At the same time, he barely grinned, as if he was amused by what was happening. Uzumaki angrily glanced at Sasuke, feverishly thinking about how to get out of the situation. For some reason, he did not even think about the fact that he was trying to free an extremely problematic creature. Naruto did not care about this. The researchers were much more monsters than Sasuke. Yes, he killed and killed cruelly. But there are exceptions, and Naruto was personally convinced of this. Sometimes compassion works wonders. The voices came closer. Naruto's heart sank. He wondered if the guards knew the faces of those who might be staying in the lab at night. Orochimaru and Kabuto were out. Did they know the elite? The only problem was that these guys, like Madara, wore masks, so pretending to be one of them without the proper props was quite problematic. Then Naruto remembered that Sasuke could move very quickly. "Can you get past them? Without getting hurt?" S-108 silently pointed at the fluorescent lights. They would give a jump. Naruto bit his lip. Looking at his expression, Sasuke concentrated and closed his eyes. A crash echoed through the hallway. The professor cautiously peered around the corner and found all the guards lying unconscious on the floor. "What did you do? It's not fatal." "Quicker." Naruto chuckled faintly as he stepped over the prostrate body. "If you give him a target, he will show himself in all his glory." "Right, Orochimaru?" The path was open and safe from here. Kabuto met them at the exit. He glanced nervously at S-108, walked around the fugitives and held the door. "As soon as I turn on the defense system, the siren will go off and the lab will lock down. The elite themselves are a bunch of weaklings, so they won't look for S-108, they'll wait for Madara's hunters to arrive. I hope you'll have enough time. You should be far away by then. Try not to be seen by people at first, they'll be looking for a trace." "Naruto-san, did you pick up your things?" "Yes, I dropped them off last night. Professor Orochimaru has the key to the office." "Okay, then goodbye. I hope we won't see each other anytime soon." "Thank you, Dr. Yakushi," Naruto smiled. "We'll wait for news." Naruto bought a new SIM card specifically to receive messages from the snake. Orochimaru promised to keep an eye on the situation in the lab and Madara's actions. Kabuto adjusted his glasses and nodded. After the door closed behind him, the sound of bolts scraping could be heard. Turning around, Naruto noticed Sasuke fascinated by the starry sky. He hadn't seen it for 27 long years. Although, who knows, had he ever seen it? Where was he before he was caught? More questions, let's go. We have to hurry. Of course. Why have you never tried to escape? I have nowhere to hide. They will search. Yes, you're right. This fact did not seem to upset Naruto in the least. Without saying anything, S-108 quietly followed. It was funny that Uzumaki had broken the rules for him for the first time in his life. And it was worth it. The apartment was dusty. Of course, no one had lived there for several months. The professor's bag stood out as a bright orange and black spot among the furniture covered with film. The apartment was a one-room apartment, but spacious. It contained a large double bed, a huge wardrobe with a mirror, a nightstand and a TV. It was good that Ino had decided to leave everything bulky, otherwise it would have been tough in the empty apartment, considering that it was not worth going to the store for furniture yet. The first thing Uzumaki did was reach into his bag and pull out home clothes for himself and Sasuke. They should be a bit big, but more comfortable than a robe. While Naruto was changing, Sasuke walked around the room like a cat, carefully, cautiously, unhurriedly. Secretly watching the expedition, Naruto chuckled quietly until he noticed that the ends of his long black hair were collecting dirt and dust from the floor. "Sasuke, it's dirty in here. Wait a little, I'll clean up, then you can look at everything. Here, put these on." Naruto held out his underwear, a gray t-shirt and regular sweatpants. Sasuke stopped and thought. Just one movement sent Uzumaki into deep shock. Sasuke grabbed strands of his long hair somewhere at the level of his neck and ran them through his fingers. And the strands disappeared, simply dissolving into thin air. Now his dark hair barely touched his shoulders and stood out comically at the back of his head. Naruto opened his mouth and immediately closed it, loudly clicking his teeth. Meanwhile, the guy examined his long nails. A couple more thoughtful movements and in front of Naruto stood the most ordinary teenager without any special external features. Only the eyes were still frightening and fascinated. And the face seemed too perfect. "Can you even destroy yourself?" Naruto asked as soon as he was able to find the gift of speech. "Destroy any organic substance, but create only myself." "But I cannot control the process of creation," Sasuke spoke very calmly. As if these abilities were natural, like the process of breathing. Sometimes destruction too. Energy is my food. I promise to tell you. Get dressed first. The bathroom is down the hall, if you're embarrassed. Sasuke snorted, as if the professor had blurted out something very stupid. Well, yes, would someone who hadn't worn clothes for 27 years be embarrassed? But Naruto had already decided that he would communicate with Sasuke as with a normal person. He just needed to forget about his peculiarities. While Sasuke was changing, the professor tried to decide where to start cleaning. Having decided, he began to pull the film off the furniture, each time marking the release of one or another piece of furniture with a sneeze. Sasuke looked strange in clothes. It was unusual to see him so homely. One would think that an ordinary person was standing next to him, if the lamp did not flicker in his presence. "Listen, is there nothing we can do about this?" Naruto asked. "I'm hungry. That's why this is happening." Uzumaki was tired of being surprised, so he silently stared at Sasuke, waiting for an explanation. "Energy is my food. Any living being has a reserve of energy, just like the surrounding space. In order to survive, I had to absorb living beings that got into the chamber. To give them a chance, I tried to control myself and do it slowly. But the people in the lab are cruel and stupid. They didn't try to save them, and as a result, hunger took over. Unexpected. I thought you were killing them out of hatred." "Sorry, but does that mean hunger can kill you?" "No. The processes in the body slow down or stop, but then it is necessary to replenish the lack of energy. It can be obtained from the surrounding space and from food, but for me it is much more difficult than taking it directly." Thinking about what was said, Naruto shuddered impulsively. "So it turns out that I am also your food?" Sasuke looked closely at the professor's face. "I control myself. It is difficult. It was especially difficult when you thought of entering the reach zone. You could feel the pain in the first seconds I used your life. People have the most energy, in their hearts." Uzumaki put his palm on his chest. Now it was clear what that feeling was. Goosebumps ran down his spine. Yes, it was a fun prospect to live next to such a creature. Sasuke came closer. "Are you in pain?" His low voice was clearly concerned. No, Naruto interrupted. "It's okay. I just understand now. Everything is fine." Sasuke reached out and gently touched the professor's face. Just like Uzumaki himself had done back in the cell. "Don't be afraid. I can absorb electrical energy. It will satisfy your hunger." For some reason, Naruto only now realized what a reckless act he had committed. But his conscience was fast asleep. And for some reason, his soul felt very warm.